Okay, you've made it through the hard stuff. Hopefully you've watched part 1 and part 2 of this series. If you haven't, please check those videos out for a full outline of what ick is and how to treat it using tank transfer method. Doing a tank transfer series can feel a little hectic, especially the first few times you do it. Eventually you will find a rhythm to the process, but in this third video of the series, we'll provide you with a few helpful hints that made my life easier throughout the process. Number 1. You can perform a short freshwater dip in between transfers. If your fish are covered in spots from a severe ick outbreak, a freshwater dip can give them a bit of temporary respite from the disease. If done between transfers, you can be even more certain that none of the infected water or free-swimming parasites move with the fish from one tank to the next. My personal opinion is that unless the fish is suffering from a very advanced ick outbreak, the freshwater dips are not necessary because the nature of the transfers themselves eliminate the possibility of the parasite surviving through the final transfer. If you do decide to perform the dip, make sure the water is temperature matched and that you have aerated it well prior to performing the dip. Do not dip longer than 4 or 5 minutes and remove your fish to the next transfer bucket if it shows any signs of distress. If a fish seems unresponsive when it returns to salt water and it's laying on the bottom of the bucket, you can gently hold the fish and move it slowly through the water to help get salt water moving through their gills again. Understandably, this can be hard on saltwater fish and is a source of stress, so use your best judgment about whether or not to dip based on the current health of your fish. Number 2. Heaters are the devil. Never trust them. I always lived in fear that the crappy little $2 heaters I'm using for tank transfer methods were going to get stuck on and kill my fish, or stop working and kill my fish, or change temperature too rapidly and, well, kill my fish. You get the idea. One day when I had started a new transfer series, I had also recently received 3 Inkbird temperature controllers in the mail from BRS to keep on our long-term quarantine tanks. I only had 2 quarantine tanks up at the time, so there was an extra controller. When I noticed it sitting there all alone and unused, I was so excited. I hooked it up to the heater in the transfer bucket, set the deviation and alarms, and for the first time ever, I wasn't constantly preoccupied with the temperature in the buckets. I've since ordered a 4th Inkbird to have on hand for all tank transfers going forward because it has saved me that much worry. Number 3. Tank transfer is an optimal time to perform a Prezi Pro treatment on incoming fish. This will ensure that your fish do not have any flukes or external parasites. Dose the medicine as directed on the bottle as your fish move through the transfers, and you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. If you are using Prezi Pro during transfers, you may need a dual airstone setup or something more powerful than the cheapest one you can find. Keeping the water highly oxygenated is very important when using Prezi Pro, otherwise your fish could suffocate. Don't overlook the aeration needs and follow the instructions on the medication properly. Number 4. The 10-gallon ice bucket we have in our videos was found on Amazon, and it's a perfect compromise between volume and ease of cleaning. Instead of a 10-gallon glass tank, we can use the bucket and provide our fish the sense of security they feel by not being exposed on all sides, as well as make cleaning and drying it easier for us. They have been a terrific purchase, and I highly recommend them. An added bonus to the ice buckets is that they come with a lid. We actually modified the lid to have a mesh on it so we can cover the tank and still let the heater, wire, and airstone line through. No risk of jumping fish at all anymore, and the cat is defeated. Number 5. Mentioned briefly in video 2, I found it most helpful to mix up a 30-gallon bucket of salt water that I would use for multiple tank transfers. Placing a heater in the bucket at the proper temperature can make the setup for the next transfer tank a breeze. Remember that this heater should be a 3rd heater, not one of the 2 being used in the transfer buckets. You do not want to cross-contaminate. Having heated water on hand at all times is very helpful. Number 6. Buy airstones in bulk. My local fish store will charge $1 a piece at the counter for single airstones. I used to pick up 5 or 6 at a time when I was preparing for a transfer series, and then I found that I could buy them in bulk on Amazon. Sometimes the airstones can crumble and fall apart as you handle them, so having an extra couple on hand is usually a good idea. It doesn't happen often, but if you need it right at that moment to get your transfer bucket ready and you have no more stones available, it can be a real hassle. Number 7, go ahead and figure out the end date for your fallow period on the infected display tank as soon as you get started. If you don't have that date firmly in mind, every week that passes will feel like an eternity as you count the days since you started. Just get the date in your head and stick to it. Number 8, ammonia control. Once fish have completed their transfers and are in the hospital tank, I recommend the ammonia badges with color indicators that can help you monitor the tank. They are cheap and disposable. If you're not treating your quarantine tank with any other medications, you can also use Prime to help keep ammonia in check. If you're adding any other medications, read all warning labels and interactions carefully, as many medicines cannot be in the water at the same time as you are using Prime. Number 9, permanent quarantine tanks. We started out in the hobby using true hospital tanks as our quarantine, much like what I mentioned previously in this video series. They are uncycled and contain no sand, live rock, or anything else that cannot be treated with copper. It didn't take long for us to realize that our work schedules were not at all compatible with doing constant water changes, daily manual top-offs, and ammonia testing. The solution for us was to create a permanent, always running quarantine tank. In essence, it's a miniature display tank. These tanks are fully cycled, and they even hold coral. We have a 30-gallon Red Sea nano tank and a 55-gallon off-the-shelf glass box. Ironically, corals grow better in both of these tanks than they do in our display, likely because of the overkill light in the refugium. Both smaller tanks grow through a cycle of housing fish that later migrate into the display tank, followed by a fallow period where we introduce a lot of invertebrates at once for a bunch of snails and crabs and let them be for 72 days to avoid any hitchhikers or ick in the display. It was the 55-gallon tank that had the outbreak of marine velvet, and we were lucky to have lost only 3 fish instead of all of them. While it's true that we have to retrieve fish from the cycled tank and place them in hospital tanks for treatment at times, it's much easier for us to know that the tank is fully cycled and capable of supporting life, not to mention being a healthier and less stressful way to acclimate new fish and get them stabilized and eating. Another bonus is that pods tend to thrive during the fishless period, which allows us to transition fussy eaters better. And tip number 10, give yourself some credit in this process. You are taking extra steps to protect your investment that a lot of people aren't willing to do. So be proud of those steps and congratulations. I hope you found this video series helpful. I do plan to update the videos if there are any mistakes or new information in the hobby for as long as this channel is active. If you think something else should be included in one of these videos, please post a comment and we'll try to adjust or add the information. I also want to thank the countless people on forums, Facebook groups, online videos, and seminars who contribute their knowledge to the hobby and help us all move forward. I couldn't have compiled all of this information without their help. I sincerely hope now that we'll see fewer social media posts about tanks being wiped out by ick, as more and more people learn the power and simplicity of tank transfers. Happy reefing! Ah, it looks like a toilet bowl around your head. Ooh, it's more flow than you're used to, isn't it? Look at that. You go right straight for that carpet. Look at you. Typical clownfish. That's crazy. Look at him.
Oh my God.
Aw. That's so cute. There's a little windy over in there, y'all. This isn't quite what you're thinking it is. He's trying to get down into it. Aww. Sorry guys, but I don't think that's going to be the home you think it is.
Maybe.
It's so cute. It's so instinctual for him. Oh, he found a spot.
The little one's not having so much trouble.
Wow.
That's so crazy.